You know, Sri
Yeah.
Aurobindo had met some yogi near the Narmada River.
Yes.
And he said that fellow was 400 years old.
Yeah, more than 300. Yes. Brahmananda. And Sri Aurobindo says that because he used to speak about the time of the Battle of Plassey. And the Battle of Plassey, he says that when the Battle of Plassey was going on, I was doing such and such. He recounts certain things, which means that it comes 17 something, Battle of Plassey. So it comes to 300 years. It's not unusual for yogis to live long lives. And with their power, they can do that. Yeah. But he didn't speak with Brahmananda. He just, Brahmananda looked up at him on the Narmada River, bank he was there, and he just looked up at Sri Aurobindo. They didn't have a conversation, but he did meet him. Yeah. Around 300 years. So it sounds incredible to most of the people who don't know anything about yoga. Okay? But you can have a long life. Okay, so let's start. We have to read today the experiences of the dream state. Okay? So who will read today?
I have the text. Shall I read?
Oh yes, if you have the text, yes.
The experiences of the dream state are infinitely various, for not only has it sovereign possession of the usual mental powers, reasoning, discrimination, will, imagination, and can use them in whatever way, on whatever subject, for whatever purpose it pleases. But it is able to establish connection with all the worlds to which it has natural access to, or to which it chooses to acquire access, from the physical to the higher mental worlds. This it does by various means open to the subtlety, flexibility, and comprehensive movement of the internalized mind, liberated from the narrow limitations of the physical outward going senses. It is able first to take cognizance of all things, whether in the material world or upon the other planes, by aid of perceptible images, not only images of things visible, but of sounds, touch, smell, taste, movement, action, of all that makes itself sensible to the mind and its organs. For the mind in samadhi has access to the inner space, called sometimes the Chiddastasha, to depths of more and more subtle ether, which are heavily curtailed from the physical senses by the grosser ether of the material universe. And all things sensible, whether in the material world or any other, create reconstituting vibrations, sensible echoes, reproductions, recurrent images of themselves, which that subtle ether receives and retains.
Okay, very interesting para. We'll have a look at what he said and identify all the words, each word. He's saying the experiences of the dream state. So let's be clear about what the dream state is. The dream state is the intra-conscious. Okay, you are in a samadhi, and when you are in samadhi, you don't need necessarily, but normally you lose consciousness of the physical world, and if someone is looking at you, they will feel that you are sleeping. But the difference between sleep and trance or samadhi is this, that in the samadhi, you are fully conscious. That's what Srimad is saying. You are fully conscious. All your reasoning, discrimination, will, imagination, all these things are working perfectly. And when you come out of your so-called sleep, Okay, when you come out, you remember perfectly well all that you have experienced there. Whereas in sleep, you don't have your reasoning, you don't have discrimination, you don't have will, imagination, all these things need not be there. And even if they are there, when you come out, you can't always remember what you experienced. So that's the difference between samadhi and sleep, ordinary sleep. But someone who is watching you from outside will not be able to make out whether you are in samadhi or you are in sleep. Okay? So this is the first thing. Then he is saying, so the experience of the dream state are infinitely various. Sorry. They can be many types of experiences are possible there in the intraconscious. For not only has it sovereign possession of the usual mental powers, and what are the mental powers? Reasoning, discrimination, will, imagination. He has given you 4 powers, which are very, very clear. Reasoning, rationality, discrimination, making out the difference between one thing and another thing, false, and usually it is used for the false and the true. Will, the will is your consciousness put forcibly on a particular intention, a particular work to be done. Imagination. Imagination also is a very powerful tool. We don't think of it that way, but if you constantly go on imagining something with power, okay, it will become a reality. That is why in yoga, imagination is so powerful. Constantly imagine that you are with mother. It will become a reality. Then, so these powers are there in samadhi. And samadhi is the dream state. Okay, so for not only has it sovereign possession, sovereign means absolute control. Okay, sovereign. The word sovereign means without any other influence which is limiting you. India is a sovereign country. It wasn't so when the British were there. Now it's a sovereign country. Nobody has got any right to dominate over it and tell it to do what it wants to do. Okay? Sovereign position of the usual mental powers. Then, and can use them in whatever way, on whatever subject, for whatever purpose it pleases. So, in whatever way, you can use all these. You can use your will, you can use your imagination. But there also there are gradations. So, if you are in samadhi, you can have power. Okay, you can discriminate, you can use your will. Certainly use the word use, okay, effectively. In whatever way, he is saying, whatever subject or for whatever purpose it pleases, you can use that power. But it is able to establish connection with all the words to which it has natural access. Natural access means without trying, okay? Or if it chooses to acquire access. So there you have to try. Okay. So there is one. Naturally you can have access to many words depending on the individual nature or to which it chooses to acquire access. That also you can do. But it may take a little time and a little effort. From the physical to the higher mental worlds. Now what I meant by the higher mental worlds? Level 2. The lower mental worlds are rationality, vital mind, and physical mind. These 3 minds are the lower mentality at level 1. At level 2 are the higher mental worlds. And what are they? Higher mind, element mind, intuitive mind, and over mind. Okay, they are the higher mental worlds. So if you are in the intraconscious, you have access to all these worlds. You have access to it. You can go there and come back and you will remember what you have experienced there. This it does. What is it? The consciousness that is experiencing it. Okay. This it does by various means open to the subtlety, flexibility, and comprehensive movement of this internalized mind, liberated from the narrow limitation of the physical outward going senses. See how accurate Sindhu is. When he says physical outward going senses, he means our gross senses. Because there are inward going senses and they are subtle senses. Okay, they are not subtle. So physical outward going senses are our eyes, ears, nose, speech, tongue, and skin. Whereas the subtle inward going senses are the subtle senses. Inward sight, inward hearing, inward touching, even tasting, everything. That's what we're going to give you the list. Okay? It is able first to take cognizance, okay, of all things, whether in the material world or upon other planes, by aid of perceptible images. These images can be perceived. And perceived how? In vision or in hearing. Okay? Or even in touch. These are all perceptible. Perceptible means open to the senses. Here in this case, it is subtle senses. Not only images of things visible, but sounds. See, so clear is. The images can be of images, physical, visible, but also sounds. Touch, smell, taste, movement, action. All these things you can have access to. Of all that makes itself sensible to the mind and its organs. Okay? This you can do. And even physical world you can enter into. Okay? It does not, it gets liberated from the narrow limitations of the physical outward going senses. If you are in samadhi. So such a powerful thing. No doubt that all the yogis want the first aim at samadhi. I read the next sentence. For the mind in samadhi has access to the inner space called sometimes the Chid Akasha. Okay? Chidakasha. Chid is consciousness, Akasha is space. So there is psychological space as opposed to the physical space. And even this psychological space, there are gradations. There is the vital space, which is slightly less dense than the physical space. Then there is the mental space. Then there is each of the other planes, higher planes also have got their own space. Okay. Sometimes called the Chidakasha. To depths of more and more subtle ether, that's exactly what he's saying. We have the gradation. Depths of more and more subtle ether. As you keep climbing up, the substance becomes more and more subtle, more and more subtle. And remember, the more subtle the substance, the more power and more real it is. It sounds very funny, but that's it. The subtlest has the maximum reality. And the grossest, like the physical world, has got, not to us, but to the man who is in the level 2, it becomes unreal. Okay? This is, and also there is power. In matter, there is not much power. You can't use much power in matter. It's very, it resists all action on itself. Matter resists action on itself, but not the subtle ones. For the mind in samadhi has access to the inner space called sometimes Chidakasha, to depths of more and more subtle ether, which are heavily curtained from the physical sense by the grosser ether of the material universe. There you are. The grosser ether of the material universe is matter. And the life material, life substance is slightly less gross. And as it keeps going, it becomes less gross, more and more subtle. Okay? And all things sensibly, whether in the material world or any other, create reconstituting vibrations, sensible echoes, reproductions, recurrent images of themselves, which that subtler ether receives and retains. Now, let's understand what he's saying, this last bit. Okay? If you see a lotus in the physical world, it is very, very clear to you. But if you are in samadhi, that lotus will be reproduced in a subtler form at whichever level you want to see it. Okay? That's why he's saying it becomes a reconstituting vibration. The lotus in the subtler world is constituted by vibrations, and it reproduces the lotus in the physical world. That's why you use the word reconstituting vibrations. The vibrations in that particular world reconstitute themselves to make the form of the lotus. Okay? And if it is visible, but if it is hearing, then sensible echoes. See, it's very clear what he's saying. In the physical world, I hear thunder. Okay? I hear thunder. In the subtler worlds, I hear the echo of thunder, I will hear. Okay? There is sound also in the subtler worlds. I don't remember where I've read, but I remember once that just as Shiva speaks about walls, you remember? There are walls separating us from the inside and the outside. There is a wall of ego which separates us from the inner being. So when that wall breaks, there can also be sound, but it is subtle sound. You can call it an echo. An echo is not really the original sound, but it's a diminished sound. So beautiful language Srimati is using to explain what we can experience in the subtler worlds. Then it's a reproduction. The reproduction of the gross in the gross world, whether it be a lotus or whether it be a thunder, it is reproduced in the subtler worlds according to the substance of that subtle world. Okay? So the thunder will not be the same in the vital world, it will not be the same in the mental world, nor it will be in the spiritual worlds. It will not be the same. So it's a reproduction and a recurrent image. The same image is made in subtle forms as it keeps going up, going up, going up. And as you go to the highest, form making ceases. Okay? Because it becomes formless and subtlest. So, beautiful expression Srimati is used to explain exactly what he said. I hope it is clear. So, if you are in Samadhi, see what a powerful thing it is. You can see everything in the physical world. You can see the reproduction of all these things at the higher levels. Okay? And they will be relevant to that particular world. The density of that ether, it is there, it will be relevant to that. So in other words, suppose you are seeing a lotus in the physical world, it is very, very tangible. You can see the color, you can see the form. If you want to see it in our vital world, it will be subtler. If you want to see it in the mental world, it will be even subtler and paler. Okay? And finally, if you go to the highest, the form disappears. It becomes so pale that the form has disappeared. This is what Srimati is saying. Okay? Samadhi. So it's got such a power. And you will remember, these experiences are more concrete than the experiences in the physical world. They are really very, very real and very, very tangible. So, wonderful para, and that last bit is so interesting. And he's using words which become so clear. First of all, they are vibrations, and then the vibrations reconstitute. Okay, sensible echoes, reproductions. Also, remember one thing. Okay? At the highest level, there are only 5 vibrations. Okay? At the highest level, there is an upward movement, there is a downward movement, there is an inward movement which is compression, and there is an outward movement which is dilution. And there is only movement, gamanam. These 5 vibrations create the world. And when they create the world, at every level in the higher ones, they are subtle forms. As they keep coming down, these 5 vibrations create more and more gross forms, more and more gross forms, until finally in the physical world, they are the grossest forms that you can have. Okay? So that's why he's using they are all constituted by vibrations. So when mother is in the higher levels of consciousness, she understands everything by the vibrations that she is seeing there in those worlds. And the vibrations are much more expressive than the images in the physical world. Now, we can read the next one. So it is this which explains. So who can read? Jasmine has just read.
I'm reading the
Yes, yes, Archana, please go ahead.
It is this which explains many of the phenomena of clairvoyance, clairaudience, etc. For these phenomena are only the exceptional admission of the waking mentality into a limited sensitiveness to what might be called the image memory of the subtle ether, by which not only the signs of all things past and present, but even those of things future can be seized. For things future are already accomplished to knowledge and vision on higher planes of mind, and their images can be reflected upon mind in the present. But these things, which are exceptional to the waking mentality, difficult and to be perceived only by the possession of a special power, or else after assiduous training, are natural to the dream state of trance consciousness, in which the subliminal mind is free. And that mind can also take cognizance of things on various planes, not only by these sensible images, but by a species of thought perception or of thought reception, and impression analogous to that phenomenon of consciousness, which in modern psychical science has been given the name of telepathy. But the powers of the dream state do not end here. It can, by a sort of projection of ourselves in a subtle form of the mental or vital body, actually enter into other planes and worlds, or into distant places and scenes of this world, move among them with a sort of bodily presence, and bring back the direct experience of their scenes and truths and occurrences. It may even project actually the mental or vital body for the same purpose and travel in it, leaving the physical body in a profoundest trance without sign of life until its return.
So he's continuing what you said and he's explaining. Now it is very possible to understand what is meant by clairaudience and um, what is it called? Clairaudience and clairvoyance. Seeing things subtle and hearing things subtle. Okay? So, because they are a reproduction of the physical world. Okay? So, when you are in the higher levels of consciousness, the physical objects in the physical world become subtler and subtler, and there are projections of all these things in the higher levels. Just as a cinema is a subtler representation of whatever has actually taken place in the physical world. Okay? So it can be repeated like that. So just as the cinema can be repeated also, here also, if you are in the samadhi consciousness, you can see these things, you can hear them, you can even touch them and feel them and see them. But subject to the senses and substance relevant to that particular world. So this is what said this. Okay, so it is this which explains many of the phenomena of clairvoyance. What is there, what has happened in the physical world, you can see in the subtle world also because they are recorded. Okay, nothing disappears. Remember this. It is a very important principle also. Okay? Everything is recorded. Every damn thing, even the smallest thing, is recorded. In the Chidakasha, it is there. So it is this which explains many of the phenomena of clairvoyance, clairaudience, etc. For these phenomena are only the exceptional admission of the waking mentality into a limited sensitiveness to what might be called image memory of the subtle ether. So the subtle ether. What has happened here, there is a memory of the event in the subtler ether. Okay? So it is there, and that image is there. You can access that image. In fact, it is said very much clearly. There are many interesting things that have been discovered also. There was a man called Edgar Cayce. Okay? Edgar Cayce. Kayce. He was a very poor rural man. He was not even educated. Okay? And briefly I'll touch upon it. And once a doctor was treating him for some problem, and he could not solve his problem. It may have been psychosomatic problem. So the doctors could not solve the problem. So the doctor had an idea. He said, I'll put you into a hypnotic sleep. You go into your intraconscious. And he didn't use the word intraconscious. That is those words. He said, you go into yourself and see what the problem is and tell me. That's exactly what happened. Okay. So he was put into a hypnotic sleep. He went into his inner being, which is samadhi. Okay. But when you are hypnotized, your eyes may still be open, but you are sleeping. You have gone into yourself. And he could make out what the problem was in his body. So when he came out, okay, the doctor said, he's fantastic. So he started using Edgar Cayce for other people's problems also. Okay. So because Edgar Cayce had that capacity. So he started using this gentleman for curing other people's psychosomatic problems, which the doctors could not solve. And also note that these patients would not be in the same place. They could be in another town. Okay? So the power of samadhi, the power of the intraconscious is not limited by time. Okay? So it can be, this is exactly what Sridhar is explaining. I read the sentence carefully, you will see again. For these phenomena of clairvoyance, are only the exceptional admission of the waking mentality. Exceptional because everybody doesn't have it. It is exceptional, means it is rare. It's a rare admission of the waking mentality into a sensitiveness to what might be called image memory. So whatever happens here, there are visible images, audible images, tactile images, olfactory images also. All these are images, the vibrations are reproduced in the subtler worlds, and you can actually experience them subtly in the subtler worlds of the subtle ether, by which not only the signs of all things past and present, but even those things of future can be seized. And Sridhar is meaning how future, because what happens in the physical world today has already happened in the subtler worlds. Okay? And in the highest level, it is decided. And when it comes down, these decisions start taking grosser and grosser forms. Okay? And I'll tell you, remind you that in the Gita, Shri Krishna is telling Arjuna, you don't have to worry. I have already killed all these people there. All you have to do is do it in the physical world. They are already killed by me in the subtler world. Okay? You should remember that. So this is exactly what Sridhar is referring to. So that which has not yet manifested in the physical world, you can access it there. This is Trikala Drishti. Okay? Now when you put all these things together, it becomes so clear. Fact number one, everything in the physical world is reproduced subtler and subtler forms in the higher worlds. Okay? So, number two, man has a capacity to go into these higher worlds and experience these things. Not only these things which have happened, they are the memory, but things which have not happened, and that is Trikala Drishti. So clearly he is explaining all these things. Things not only of things past and present, but even those of things future which can be seized. Otherwise, how would Sridhar forecast in 1920 that India will be free? It took 27 years for it to become a fact. And he had also said that Pakistan will disappear. And now it is over 75 years have passed, and in the next 2-3 years, the astrological forecasts are saying that it will happen. Okay? In fact, Pakistan will break up into 4 or 5 countries. Same thing with China also. Sridhar also saw about China. It's not on record, but he told Surendra Mohan Ghosh. He told him, Surendra Mohan Ghosh, he used to meet Sridhar whenever he came. Surendra Mohan Ghosh was a member of parliament and he was a disciple of Sridhar. So whenever he came, This happened in 1950. 1950. Okay. He had an interview with Sri Lanka and he was going away. And when he was going away, Sri Lanka called him back and said, "You didn't ask anything about China?" And he said, "No." He said, "China will break up. It will break up into 4 or 5. He does. Sunatramon doesn't remember the number, but we can also guess roughly. Tibet will become free. Mongolia could become free. Xinjiang, where the Muslims are having trouble, that also can become free. Hong Kong would become a city-state. Okay, so all these things are going to happen. You have to see. So this is your possible with the Trikala Drishti. So I read the next phrase. Okay, things future can be seized. Next, for things future are already accomplished to knowledge and vision on the higher planes of mind. What Surendra is saying is exactly what Sri Krishna is telling Arjuna. Nimitta matram bhava. You be only the instrument. I have done whatever had to be done already in the subtler planes. Now you have to be the instrument and complete the work that I have already done in the higher worlds. Things future are already accomplished. Note the words already accomplished to knowledge and vision on the higher planes of mind and their images. Not the ordinary mind, but the higher planes of mind. Which are the higher planes of mind? Level 2, including level 3. And their images can be reflected upon mind in the present. So, those images which are there in the higher, they can be experienced either there or they can also be experienced in the normal mind as reflections. Okay? So clear. I'll just remind you of one more thing. Okay. Mother used to look at everybody's hand. I've told many of these stories, but we have to link them to the thing which you are saying. Then it becomes real to us. Mother was looking at everybody's hands. One day when she was looking at Tara's hands, okay, she suddenly became serious and went away without saying anything. Then Tara afterwards asked her, "Why did you do that? Why? What have you seen in my hand?" So mother told her that your lifeline is very short. But then she had the power. Okay, that's what Sandra said, he has the power to do things. So with her power, she did something which extended her life. Even today, she is alive and kicking. Very, very alive. Only 3-4 days ago, we spoke to her in Delhi through Skype. So this is what is being said. So you can see things in the future. Okay? I give you several examples. Now, but these things which are exceptional to the waking mentality, exceptional means rare. They are very rare in the waking mentality, normally. Difficult and to be perceived only by the possession of a special power or else after assiduous training. So you can also train yourself. And when you do yoga, these powers open them of themselves. Are natural to the dream state of trance consciousness in which the subliminal mind is free. When you are in the dream consciousness, you are going away from your mind. You are losing your contact with the mind and going into the subtler mind levels. So there it is very natural. But here if you remain in the physical world in your mind, normal mind, then it is rare. It can still happen, but it is rare. Okay? And you have to develop the capacity, that is also possible. In fact, it is possible to even train yourself to see auras. Okay? Physically, you can train yourself to see the auras of people. I've got several, one child is there in the ashram, one of my students, who can see auras, but she has to make an effort. So, these things are expressions of the waking mentality, difficult and to be perceived only by the possession of a special power, or else after assiduous training, are natural to the dream state. Dream state, intraconscious, inner being of trance consciousness, in which the subliminal mind is free. In our normal mind, the mind is not free. Okay? There it is free. And that mind can also take cognizance of things of various planes. By the way, the word cognizance is clear, huh? It means to recognize and to have knowledge. Take cognizance means become knowledgeable about, okay, of things on various planes, not only by these sensible images, but by a species of thought perception and of thought reception. So it's not only images, but even thought is capable of doing that. But by a species of thought perception and thought reception. So, thought reception. So thought perception, your thought is capable of perceiving these things by your own will. Or a thought reception. They simply come into your consciousness from outside without your willing. Thought reception. And impression analogous to that phenomenon of consciousness, which in modern psychical science has been given the name of telepathy. So, if mother is looking at you with her telepathic powers, she will know exactly what you're thinking. Okay? That is what. By the way, telepathy is clear, no? It's a transmission of thought from mind to mind without any outward expression or without any outward means. But the powers of the dream state do not end here. There are more powers. And what are they? It can, by a sort of projection of ourselves. Okay? That means your own vital and your own mind, they have also got powers. So you can use your vital to throw yourself elsewhere and produce a result. I'll give you an instance. Okay? Can, by a sort of projection of ourselves, okay, in a subtler form, the mental body, actually enter into other planes and worlds or into distant places and scenes of this world, move among them with a sort of bodily presence. In a subtle body you can go, okay? Sort of bodily presence in subtle body, and bring back the direct experience of the scenes and truths. Scenes and truths. I'll give you an example. Huh? Where it comes. Yeah. Move among them with a sort of bodily presence and bring back the direct experience of the scenes and truths. It may even project actually the mental or vital body for the same purpose and travel in it, leaving the physical body in a profoundest trance without sign of life until its return. I'll give you 2-3 very interesting examples. It is so clear. Leaving the physical body in a profoundest trance without sign of life until its return. So, 2 examples of going and doing things outside in other worlds. One is that Silvio Crasionas. He was a prisoner in Romania after the Second World War. It was a communist state, and he was being tortured because he wanted freedom. Okay? And Sriramdass goes to him in a jail and tells him that life is not for suicide. He was about to commit suicide, and Sriramdass guides him. Okay? Then the Silvio Crasionas, it is a whole book. Huh? There's a whole book on it. I have a copy of that book. Someone gave it to me. So then he asks him, who are you and why are you coming and helping me like this? Okay? There's no doubt that you are helping me and I understand the meaning of life and I have not committed suicide. But tell me, who are you? He says, I am Aurobindo Ghosh. I think I've told you this before. Aurobindo Ghosh. That's how it is written in the book. Dogosh. Okay. So this is what Sriramdass is doing. He's going to other worlds and helping them. Also the famous case of John Kelly, the American soldier, who was in World War and Sriramdass used to guide him. And he used to call his guidance, he used to call him Great Sir. So this is what Sriramdass is doing. All these references are there in Savitri also, but in a very hidden manner. Okay? Not openly, but in a hidden manner. He speaks about the prisoner in the dungeon cell in Savitri. Okay? He is referring to Silvio Crasionas. So, then, it may even project actually the mental or vital body for the same purpose and travel in it. Okay? You can go in your subtle body and leaving the physical body in a profoundest trance without sign of life until its return. Now I'll tell you something which you, oh, it's already 8:42. Anyway, I'll take 2 minutes. There's a story about Shankaracharya. Okay, Shankaracharya used to always, he had a sharp mind and he used to always win every debate. Okay, but one lady was there, and Shankaracharya is an ascetic. Okay, he never married. So she asks him certain questions about the experiences of insects. Okay, so Shankaracharya says, since I have not had the experience, I cannot tell you, but give me 6 months. So what he does, this may be a legend, but it fits perfectly with what we are reading. Okay, so what he did was, he went into a cave somewhere and left his body. Okay, that's exactly what Srinivas is saying. See, the profoundness, leaving the physical body in a profoundest trance without sign of life until its return. Note that until its return. So Shankaracharya came out of his body and he started seeing, looking to a person who was likely to have a lot of this experience of sex. So he enters into that person, experiences all the whatever he had to experience of sex, and goes back into his body. That's what something until its return. See, so clear. Okay, and he enters his body and comes back, and then he picks up the argument again with that lady, and he wins his argument. So, this may be it sounds like a legend, but when you read these words, each word is fitting. Okay, profound, leaving the physical body first, profoundest trance second, without sign of life again. For 6 months, that body was left there, okay, in the cave until its return. Then you come back and take possession of the body again. Okay. So it's time now. I gave you so many interesting examples about celebration. Sri Aurobindo never makes it melodramatic and make it like a miracle, but say it in such a way that if you see exactly what he's saying, you can get so many examples in actually. Okay. Au revoir, everybody. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Raghunath.
Thank you, Raghav.